In Railjack, there has been a severe imbalance that has existed since its creation. An imbalance between a fully functional Railjack and a fully functional Archwing. Let's have a look at the situation. So this is going to be a bit more of a talky talk video, less doing stuff, more just me yapping away. Let's go. So, the Railjack, at least in my experience, completely outperforms Archwings. The Railjack is way faster than an Archwing. The Railjack is probably tankier than at least non-Amesha Archwings. The Railjack armaments, they either outdamage arc guns or the projectile-based armaments have way faster traveling bullets than the projectile-based arc guns. And worst of all, the battle avionics massively outperform Archwing abilities. Especially since there are some Archwing abilities that are straight up unusable in Railjack. For example, I don't know how much damage the Odinata missiles are doing. I really don't. Because I don't even think any of them can actually chase down the enemy fighters in the Veil. So, your missiles are practically useless. Doesn't matter how much damage they're doing if they're not going to be able to hit the enemies in the first place. I have no idea if Itzel's drones are too weak. It must just say that they're kinda weak in the plains of Eidolon. I'm constantly chasing fighters when I'm in Archwing, and that means that the drones, they're constantly chasing me, and when they're constantly chasing you, they're not attacking anything. So, to that extent, Itzel's drones, they're also functionally useless. I don't know what to say about this. I think DE should go with Gundam rules. This is probably the best way to address it. This is probably the best way to look at it and then try to achieve that goal. So some of these imbalances that I just mentioned, they actually do follow Gundam rules. Railjacks are way faster than Archwings over long distances, and that's really good because you don't really expect a mobile suit to travel from point A all the way over to point B. You normally would expect them to be sitting in a ship, and the ship is going to travel really quickly. There are, of course, some Gundams that actually can travel really far, but we're not going to include them. We're talking about just your general Gundam rules. The ship, usually, outside of charging and all that stuff, it's there so that you can travel far and wide and long distances really quickly instead of actually trying to rely on a mobile suit, or in this case, an Archwing. However, Archwings should be heaps more mobile than Railjacks on a micro scale. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is Archwings should have better dodging and better micro movement so that they can deal with fighters a lot better, whereas Archwings should be more about that grand scale movement at the very least. Okay, so how do we achieve that? Railjacks, I think, should actually just lose the little skip that they have when you tap the boost button. They're ships, okay? A lot of people are probably going to say, yo, can we not nerf Railjacks? And I say to them, well, you're using a ship. Why does a ship get to do a little skip without everything falling apart? We already have barrel rolls with this ship. I think that's enough. Little skip, let's drop that. Secondly, the Railjacks should get a huge buff to the boost amount and, more importantly, boost regeneration. In my opinion, right now, boost takes way too bloody long to regenerate, and I'm still in the mindset of DE possibly yeeting the whole boost mechanic because, we had stamina for WarFrames. We didn't like it then. We're not really liking it now, whether it be boost for the Railjack or, hell, boost for the Necromechs. We're not really liking it now, and we certainly didn't like it then. So either remove it, or at least give a massive, and I do mean massive, boost regeneration buff alongside, hopefully, a big buff to overall boost amount. If not that, then let's revert the boost changes from Railjack Revisited. Frankly, I really liked the way that boost worked in Railjack Pre-Visited, but then when Railjack got Revisited, yeah, boost kind of got screwed. So, I don't like those boost changes at all. I still don't like those boost changes at all. If you're not going to give us a huge boost regeneration buff, let's just straight up revert the boost changes. Archwings then need more movement speed. Right now, Archwing Blink is practically the only way you're going to be chasing those fighter ships. I don't think that's what Archwing Blink is designed for. Sure, it's used in previous generations for like mass travel, but it's a blink. I don't normally think of a blink as a way to chase enemies eternally. I think of blink normally as a way to dodge stuff. I think of blink more as a tactical ability, not a chasing ability. Sure, you do use it for traversal purposes anyway, but still. I think Archwings should be able to chase enemy fighters with their actual boost. That's how I think. The resulting speed balance between players and enemy fighters should be the same as a normal open space Archwing mission. Have you ever noticed that Archwing missions, you don't actually need to chase enemy fighters with your boost? Yeah, let's get that into Railjack. I think that's a good idea. The resulting balance should be that in small distances between the Archwing and the Railjack, the Archwing, as well as a blink and some boost, should actually reach their destination a little bit faster than the Railjack, or even a lot faster. So small distances, the Archwing should be a lot faster than the Railjack, but large distances, the Railjack should be heaps faster than the Archwing. So for example, if you were to do like little minute dodges, you want to use your Archwing if you want to play like that. Otherwise, if you are in the starting position and you want to go to, say, the sentient anomaly, you do not want to be using your Archwing to do that. You instead want to be using your Railjack to get there faster. And I think the way that the Railjack is made at the present moment, if you delete the little skip and maybe boost that boost regeneration, the way that drift works, I think that will basically allow this particular resulting balance to be achieved. So I think that's going to be really, really good. The next thing that, of course, is an imbalance between the Railjack and the Archwing, but still follows Gundam rules, is that the Railjacks are tankier than non-Amesha Archwings. This is probably fine. The big question is whether Amesha needs a nerf. I'll let you guys figure that out in the comments. I think a lot of you are going to say no, and that's probably fair. But I'm fine with the Railjack being generally tankier than Archwings. Some people do say, well, I don't really like the idea of getting blown out of space by a cruise ship, because those missiles do a lot of damage to your Archwings. To that I say, well, you can always strafe, you can always try to dodge those missiles, and you are fighting a cruise ship. So I would expect a cruise ship to be able to quickly destroy an Archwing in much the same way that a Railjack is very quickly destroying a fighter ship. That's just how I feel. Let's move on. I think some important balance changes need to be made to do with the firepower of the Archwing. So, first off, like I said, Railjack armaments probably outdamage arc guns, and projectiles from armaments are definitely faster than arc guns. They still kinda are. Damage and projectile flight speed should be buffed on arc guns. That's probably the only viable way to make this work. At this point, nerfs to the armaments in terms of damage and projectile flight speed is going to cause a minor ride at least. Possibly even a major ride, I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think that's a good idea. Currently, we have a rank 10 gunnery that I think provides a really, really degenerate way of playing Railjack, especially for your eyes, in the sense that if you're constantly zooming in and then zooming out in order to get that sort of pseudo quasi aimbot shenanigan going on there, I don't think that should be a thing, and I did say that when I did a quick intrinsics pass. I think instead, reflex aim, rank 10 gunnery intrinsic should be by default applied to Archwings, and just have it on the Arc gun instead. Give it to Archwing players, not Railjack players. That being said though, if you're not going to do that, just yeet it all together, but probably just give it to Archwings by default in Railjack missions. Or frankly, all Archwing related missions, because apparently Archwing missions are going to get yeeted at some point in the future. We also have a rank 1 gunner intrinsic that I think should be applied by default. So all Archwing and Railjack players should have access to rank 1, which is the ability to see the little targeting reticle using a projectile weapon so that you can lead enemy fighters a lot easier. I think that's fine, as something to be applied to all Archwing and Railjack players by default right at the start. This will definitely help Archwing players get used to playing Archwing in Railjack missions. I feel like there is a bit more of a learning curve when it comes to that. This should ease that a bit and make the experience a little bit more streamlined, and that's going to be, I think, a really, really good idea. As a result, the experience of using the arc gun should be really, really similar to being a gunner in your Railjack. You'll still need some skill in leading enemies, even with the UI giving you the little lead icon should the rank 1 gunner intrinsic from Railjack actually become default for Archwing players as well. Otherwise, the next thing really is to just see how much damage each weapon is doing. I'm not 100% sure about the damage balance at the moment. There are a couple of weapons that I think are considered really, really strong. Singus off by heart is probably one of them. I like using the Mosselin a lot, actually, and I guess Imperative Vandal is okay, but definitely a balance rework is also a good idea as well, but that's really just pending damage balances. I haven't actually really tested that, so I can't really talk about that a whole lot. The big question, of course, is won't this make the game too easy now that so much more damage is available in the form of your arc guns? Not exactly. If you're an Archwing pilot, you're not a gunner. So, look at it this way. You only have 4 players on the ship pending Commander Intrinsics. Whoever plays Archwing as a direct result of these balance buffs to Archwing, they're not going to be a gunner. So you've already lost at least 1 gunner. Let's say you have 3 players playing Archwing and you have 1 pilot. Then you have 3 players playing Archwing and you only have 1 pilot. That means your 2 gunners are missing. So I don't think it's going to really change the balance too badly to the point where Archwing missions become even easier. The idea is to just give Archwing players, in my opinion, an opportunity to actually be somewhat useful outside of being a mesher. If everyone is either an Archwing pilot or a gunner, you also lose out on another thing, pending Commander Intrinsics, an engineer. Without an engineer, there's a good to fair chance your ship is going to blow up. Of course, if you're a pilot with rank 10 everything, then you could probably be your own engineer. But at that point, the point of even having an engineer in the first place is really just convenience. You've lost that convenience if everyone is either a gunner or an Archwing pilot. So, we'll just have to see what happens with Commander Intrinsic. But honestly, once Commander Intrinsics come in, everything should be super duper easy because frankly, I think, let's be real here, Commander Intrinsics was probably going to fix 99% of the oh no, Railjack is too anti-solo player problem. The final thing, of course, is that Battle Avionics, they massively outperform Archwing abilities. Like, this is absolutely absurd. I feel like it's night and day between using something like Seeker Volley and Odonata's missiles. Any projectile-based ability needs to have the projectile speed increased by a massive amount, as far as I can tell. Like I said, I don't notice Odonata's missiles doing anything, because I don't even think Odonata's missiles are doing anything. It's not a question of damage, it's a question of, are they even hitting anything? Like, what's going on here? The only thing I can see it hit is a cruise ship, but they're a cruise ship. They're super tanky. They have other ways to be destroyed. You're probably not meant to use Odonata's missiles. Probably not a good idea. I also feel like Itzel's drones could use a buff. I think they need more independence. Specifically, maybe they should function like Titania's Razorflies in the sense that if you're sprinting around all over the place, as far as I can tell, Titania's Razorflies don't necessarily fly back to you until you actually get out of their leash range. At the same time though, they need a bigger leash range. Itzel's drones, they pretty much keep chasing you in Railjack as far as I can tell. They're not doing anything. Afterwards, they could then use probably a damage buff. There's also this thing with them being really, really slow when they're chasing you. Like, they can't actually keep up with you, especially with the blink. So if you blink, and then you keep running, or in this case boosting through space, the drones, they actually take a very, very long time to actually chase up to you. I think that's not a good idea either. So, to that end, I would say that they need a movement speed buff as well. There are definitely some other balance changes that I think could be made to the other Archwings, but I don't play enough of them to really make a good comment I would probably say, just as a guess, I think Elytron's Thumper could use a range buff in the sense that the area that it covers could probably do with an increase. But I don't use Elytron all that much. So, Elytron players, let me know in the comments what you think. In terms of the damage, again, I don't really know what the balance of damage is at this particular moment in time. Do they do enough damage? Do they not do enough damage? I have no idea because, again, I don't know if they're actually doing anything. I guess they need a damage buff. Particularly against higher level enemies. I am noticing in Archwing missions, in Steel Path Archwing missions, Odonata's missiles don't do a whole lot. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Itzel's drones don't do a whole lot based off when I use them in the planes. So I think maybe they could use a buff against heavily armored enemies and higher level enemies as well. Keep in mind though that in Railjack missions specifically, arc guns can be very, very useful in mitigating a lot of the damage reduction, because they can get access to good old-fashioned plasma and particle procs, which do strip armor and increase the amount of damage taken. So maybe for Railjack purposes they don't need a damage buff. I don't know. I do not know. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. But I do have maybe one idea, and I use Odonata a lot just because I like to use a prime Archwing. I think maybe Odonata's missiles should do as much damage as Seeker Volley missiles. Well, hold on! This is what I mean. I think one Odonata missile should do as much damage as one single Seeker Volley missile. But the difference is, Odonata fires less missiles. They do not fire 50 missiles. So, generally speaking, you're doing less damage. But at least each missile is doing something in terms of damage, and I think that would be a good idea. And then at that point, the balance is, well, the Odonata slowly regenerates energy over time. Just like all Archwings slowly regenerate energy over time. Whereas the Railjack is capable of building its own energy through the forge. So, if you have a good engineer, then obviously Seeker Volley is the better choice. Otherwise, if you just want to be an Archwing player, because for whatever reason you enjoy Archwing a lot more than Railjack, fair enough. At least then your Odonata missiles, in this case, are actually doing some damage. I think that's going to be a really, really good idea. At least then you'll open up Archwing to maybe seeing some more use of non-Amesha Archwings. We'll just have to see. They might not be as tanky as Amesha, but I have actually survived relatively well as Odonata without being Amesha, because lol, I'm Odonata. But what I'm noticing is that it's really, really hard to kill something with your Archwing abilities. That's pretty much it. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Listen, I don't play a whole lot of Archwing in Railjack because of how weak I feel Archwing is. If you feel like Archwing is super duper good, and I do mean non-Amesha Archwings, I know a lot of people who play Archwing use Amesha, try and tell me this is the same idea if they're not Amesha. But if you think that Archwing is actually stronger than a Railjack, well, I'm not entirely sure how you're achieving that. Feels like you probably need to do something about your Railjack. I don't know. What do you reckon? Do you like using Archwing? Do you like using Railjack? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more WarFrame content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.